Hi everyone and welcome for this tutorial how to paint Jorah Mormont from Game of Thrones. For that I'm going to use some German uniform, red brown, mood green, eagle green, Tannet flesh, dark sea blue, red leather, red vermilion, troll slayer orange and earth matte. For this tutorial I'm going to use all these different colors to paint the horse, the red, the green, the flesh and the different elements in non-metallic metal. At the beginning I primed all my miniatures in black, and after that I'm going to push with my airbrush some highlight. In first time I'm going to push my highlight directly with a middle gray, and after that step by step I'm going to use more and more white into my gray to have something more light, so more white and less dark. As you can see, the first step is in middle gray, so I push on all the horse parts who take the more the light, and after I'm going to add more white to push more highlight again. At the end, and just after that, I'm going to use directly white and focus on the surfaces who take the more light. If you don't know where you need to push your highlights, don't hesitate to take a look and to put your minis just under a very strong light and take care on the part where the light is going to have the more reflection. If you see that, so you can take a picture with your smartphone and take it just in front of you to see in which part you need to push more highlight. That's easy like that. Don't hesitate, if you don't know, by the way, to take a look to all this tutorial and to take it as reference if you need. Now to create more texture on the horse, I decided to push a little bit small point of white everywhere just by using a dry brush. For that I'm going to tap on the different parts, and now I come back with gray, this time dark gray, just to push again a little bit my shadow and a little bit black now, just to push more black at the end on the horse. I do that because in my previous step I don't focus on the small surfaces, so it's a good way to make it better. Now with my brush and with some white, I'm going to tap to create again small point of white. It's always in the same direction, in the same way. I just want to have something with more texture on the horse. As you can see, I tap my color on every different muscles, but not only, I put them in the same way on the different parts who need more light. Take care about your brush, about two different things. Your dilution is important, but you need to remove a lot of paint from your brush directly on your palette to be sure you have always a good control on your brush. Now I push the different hair of my horse just by mixing earth, brown earth and white color to have a nice beige color. And now just with a little bit of white I'm going to push my highlights on all the hair part. If you want something clean without any effort, take care about one thing. Don't necessarily have as a goal to have big contrasts on your color. Just try to use always one simple color and one very simple highlight. Don't go in a very strong contrast if you want something simple. Now with some earth brown, I'm going to push my laser and I'm going to push shadow into my laser just by using dark sea blue, very diluted, and I use just a little bit of the end of my brush to push my color in the different recesses and in different parts we are going to take the more shadow. Now I'm going to push my highlights into this laser just by adding a little bit white to push on every edges and every part will take the more light. As you can see, I don't have a lot of paint in my brush, so I can control it more easily. A lot of people who think they don't have the good dilution, at the end they have the good dilution, but they just have too much paint on the brush. So take care about that. And as you can see, I'm going to use the side of my brush to push my highlights on every edges, and after that, when I have more large surfaces, I'm going to use the side of my brush and push my color in the direction I want to see them the more strong. Step by step and layer after layer, I'm going to try to have a more intense color. Don't try to have one intense color directly in just one layer. That's not the good way, because you are going to have something very weird with not necessarily nice transition. But if you make it in different steps with a very good dilution, you are going to have more and more strong color, and that's going to be totally okay. Now I'm going to use some white again just to create more contrasts into the head of the horse and some different parts. I want to be more making a better distinction between my leather parts and the horse. And now I come back a little bit into the eyes, just with a mix between white and dark sea blue. Don't hesitate if you have any question to ask into the comment zone. If you want, you can support me always on Patreon, so you can have access to a group. Inside this group, you can share your work and I make you some feedback to be sure you are going to always have a better and better level. Now I start by using some red laser to create another way of laser, and with red brown I'm going to push my shadow into this laser. As you can see, I always take care about don't reach all the surface I already paint, and always focus on the part who take the more shadow, because I push right now my shadow into this laser part. Now I mix some red, brown and black from Procolor to push again my shadow to have something more strong. I come back just with a little bit red brown because it's going to be my basic color to start the red on the clothes, but we are going to see that after. I just make it now because I have some red brown on my palette. Now with some red laser mix with white from Procolor, I'm going to push my highlight into this laser. Take care about focus and reach smaller and smaller surfaces. I know that I repeat a lot of times the same things, but that's the best way to be sure you are going to do it when it will be your turn to paint. And now with some black color I come back and push again my shadow. I'm going now to start the red part, so I use some red vermilion from Prince August, and I am going to push my highlight on every part where I'm going to take the more light. For that, with the side of my brush always, I'm going to push my highlight on every part who take the more light. Take care about when you push your highlights, just focus on the part who takes the more light. Once again, if you are not sure, just check and take a look to your miniatures just under the light, and always in the position you want it on the battlefield to see in which direction the light is going to go, and push your paint in this direction. Now with some Troll Slayer Orange, I'm going to push some line of highlight only in on the different edges. To be sure, I'm going to can put into this a little bit of Troll Slayer Orange mixing with white. So you need to have some small surfaces, but enough large to push a little bit more highlight. As you can see, step by step, and by taking care about reaching a smaller and smaller surfaces, you see we create our transition and our degradé directly on the mini. Don't worry if you make something wrong, you can always come back and clean that after. For example, when I make a too large line, I come back just with some red, my first highlight color, as you can see, and I just come back and I come into the middle between my highlight and my shadow, and I put this color just to create a better transition. At this moment I have very few color on my brush to be sure I control. With this kind of method you can paint very easily, even very quickly. You just have step by step to focus on smaller and smaller surfaces to have something nice. Now I'm going to start my non-metallic metal parts. For that I'm going to use only some white color. A lot of people who don't success to make a non-metallic metal, the only problem come from the fact they don't really they are afraid about pushing very strong contrast and using this kind of different color. And by using directly white on a black surfaces, that's going to create your to remove your fear and to push you to create, after you have the contrast, to create your transition, but only after you find the good contrast. And non-metallic metal is all about contrast, and very strong contrast. So take care about that and push your white directly. As you can see, I just push on the different edges, and on the shoulder I put a point of highlight, and after that, after I put this point with the rest of paint on my brush, I'm going to push in the direction of this highlight to create my transition. Once again, if my English is not perfect, or if you have any question, don't hesitate to ask, don't hesitate to tell me. This is going to be an exchange between you and me, so don't hesitate to ask, don't hesitate to share to your friend if you want. That's always a good thing to enjoy our hobby in this way. Now I come back with some white again. It's always the same things. I come back with white and black and white and black. Don't hesitate. You can always remove, you can always correct, you can always make something better just by using black and white, and that's a very good exercise to be sure you are going to control your non-metallic metal effect. As you can see, more I'm going to push my white, more it's going to be strong. So once again, to be sure you will have a nice transition and great contrast. You just need to make different layer to have more and more strong contrast at the end. For the final point of white, as you can see, I just tap them on just some few points to create my non-metallic metal effect. A lot of people think the non-metallic metal is pretty complicated, but in my opinion it's pretty easy if you just push your contrast a lot and after take care about transition, and that's going to be very helpful in your way to paint, because it's going to help you on all the different color. Now with some German uniform, I'll start to paint my green part, and step by step I start by the pants and by the different element on the horse. This time I think I'm going a little bit too far with my green, and it will be better in my opinion to have something more simple, but I do that and that work. But you can just stop at the second step just right now with middle green from Prince August, just by pushing my highlight. That will be enough. But as you can see, I'm going to push some mood green just after that to push again and again more contrast. Even if it's not necessary, that's work. As you can see, layer after layer, my green is going to be more and more strong, and I focus on smaller and smaller surfaces. It's always the same things, but with a different kind of color, and always by using the side of my brush and just a few color on my brush. As you can see, I just have color on the end of my brush and only on the end. Now I make it again, and I make it on larger surfaces, and I push in a smaller and smaller surfaces. Layer after layer, you can see the green is more and more strong. Now I come back with a little bit of mood green. As I already explained, that step it's not really necessary, but that's going to push a little bit more my green, and that's always a good thing. With my mood green, I just tap my color, and that's enough, because it's not a necessary very covering color. So if you tap it, so you will have more a better and a really better intensity. I use some red brown to prime my flesh part. As you know, I don't know if you already have in your hand some Songs of Ice and Fire miniatures, but the face and all the detail is not necessarily perfect in the details because of plastic, but it's really sufficient and enough to create something nice. So I'm going just to make it very strong and exaggerated. So I'm going to use some tanned flesh directly and push my highlight on every part who takes more light once again. And for that, I'm going to use this tanned flesh just on some few parts to push again and again my highlight. After that, I'm going just to add more and more white into my tanned flesh to have something with more light on all the face. You can use directly if you have some elf flesh that work in the same things. I just want to limit my palettes of color just to have something more easy to learn and to do. But if you have some elf flesh, that work perfectly. Just to be clear, if you use elf flesh, you don't need to mix this flesh color with white. just use L-Flash directly from your palette. And now by adding a little bit more white into my mix, I put just some points of light. And now I come back on the hair just with some white on the black base. As you can see with this black base, if when I push directly, my white is going, when it will be totally dry, it will be gray. So what I do is making different layer, and in the second, when I make a second layer just like that, I put just on some few points to have a very strong white. And here is the result for this Joa Marmont. I really hope you enjoy this tutorial. Don't hesitate to ask if you have any question in comments. You can subscribe to the channel and share to your friend. You can follow me on Facebook and Instagram so you can see the new tutorial is coming, or the new paint I do in commission or other things. And you can see that will be the next tutorial I do. This is so on the Unsullied. I hope I do that a long time ago, but it's going to be for you very soon. And don't hesitate to subscribe to my Patreon to be my boss and to have access on a Facebook group so you can share me your work, and I'm going to give you some advice to progress in paint. Thanks again for watching, and see you soon for the next tutorial. Bye bye.